Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Dave Noodles. We are on the Type 88 show where we talk to people about how they turn their dreams into reality. And today we have two men that are trailblazing their dreams and making the world a better place, healing people, making people happy, and helping their community. So today I want to welcome two special guests, Johnathan and Carl of State Hemp, to the Type 88 show. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, what's going on, Dave? Thanks for having us, man.
It's good to have you here. So for anyone who doesn't know, what cities are you from?
We're actually both from
Um,
Parsippany.
Nice.
yeah, both from Parsippany, live in Parsippany. Our store, Garden State Hemp, is actually located in Short Hills, in Milburn, New Jersey, or Milburn Short Hills, however you want to look at it. The same town, there's two towns blended into one. But we're right on the main downtown strip down there. It's called Milburn Ave. Real nice, business district with a really cool, like homey downtown feel to it, small New Jersey town feel to it. People walk up and down all the time. There's a park right across the street from us. One of the busiest delis is actually across the street from us. They were voted, I think, number one or number two, Sloppy Joe, in the country or in the state. I forget which one it was, John. They're
Yeah, no, they're good. I
Deli.
think it was like the second, yeah, number two, but they're good.
That's really
Yeah,
dope.
food's real good there. So the town's real dope. So it's really nice.
So yeah, so shout out to Jersey. Um, so you guys were both raised in Jersey too? You both That's
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, born and raised my whole life's been in Jersey. So yeah, I know me and John are definitely one of those people. I think everyone's always like, Jersey's always on top of each other. I'm like, yeah, but every state's so far apart. It's like,
Yeah. That's crazy because I'm from New York City and we're definitely on top of each other. It's like that Ghostface song. What do you say? Like six in the bed and two on the leg or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Jersey, I feel like you got a lot of room there. But
Compared to the city living, yeah.
well,
No,
yeah,
I remember
compared to New York
spending
City.
my nights, some just nights over in my auntie's in Brooklyn. Me and my cousins all sharing one little bed, and yeah, it'd be good times. The small little New York apartments. Definitely not like Jersey. You come out to Jersey, it's a whole nother story.
yeah, so let's bring it back a little bit. I always like kind of talking about the humble beginnings and where it all came from and where it all started and the root of it. So maybe you guys could bring it back to how you guys linked up and how you guys met.
Oh yeah, that's an easy one. So me and John first linked up and met back in it did it like 2014 or 2015. So we've been friends since high school. John's a couple years older than me, and when I was a freshman, I think, John, what were you, a sophomore or a junior?
Yeah, probably like a junior. If
Okay.
you were a freshman, I was a junior. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I think like the first time me and John linked up, I was like a freshman in high school and he was a junior. So it was, we come from a close group of friends. There's probably like eight of us, nine of us who are like close knit, have been since like some of us since like diapers. Like John grew up with one of our buddies, Andy, who works with Keith and those guys over at True and Living. They've known each other since like short
And
stacks.
me and Andy go back.
John and Vinny, like our boy Vinny, like they go way back, short stacks. So when I moved to Parsippany, it was seventh grade, and I linked up with guys like Andy because they lived on the same side of town as me. And John lived on the opposite side. So Parsippany's pretty big. It's got like 55,000 residents. It's got like 13 elementary schools, two middle schools, and two high schools. So it's a big town. So John went to the hills, I went to the high, which has always had the two crosstown rivalries. They were Vikings, we were the Red Hawks. So it was one of those rare friendships where it's like we all mess with each other, but it was like come like sports guys. It's like, yeah, they're my boys, but we're gonna sit on the opposite sides of the field. Like we're gonna sit with our school. But we'll link up at the snack bar, at halftime, dap it up and say what's up. And then we'll link up after the game. So we came from that close group of friends. And oddly, generally enough, we all started like consuming cannabis together back in the day. back then it was, we were high school and middle school kids, so it was for fun, shits and giggles. But then John, being like one of the conscious people, and like the people that always ask why and always wants to know, like, what's going on, he was always digging a little bit deeper into cannabis, and he actually started introducing us to like hemp wicks that you light your cannabis with for better tasting and for healthier use of it, hemp t-shirts, hemp sneakers, and all the different cool things that hemp did. And we were just like, yeah, but bro, like, we were just trying to roll this up over here. We were just trying to like have a good time. So it was one of those things where, like, as we were younger, like, he even brought up some of those cool things that cannabis did, but we were still stuck in like the high of just being cool with it. So throughout life, we all started to become a little bit more conscious as why we were using cannabis and things like that, thinking we were just using it for fun back in the day, not realizing it's for stress, anxiety. When you fast forward, then probably, actually, no, John, we first linked, I said 2014 we first met, more like 2004, 2005.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you said 2014, I'm like, you gotta take.
Yeah, I messed that whole timeline out. Like, that just goes to show you how long it's been, and how long like 7 years feels.
Yeah, 2014 was like the first time you wrote a business plan for me.
Yeah. Actually, no, we'd have to go back to like 2004, 2005, actually, that me and John linked up and first met. So actually, if you want to fast forward then to like 2014 and 2015, John and a couple of our buddies first started talking about like doing little businesses and stuff like that. And I was the kid who, of our group, was oddly enough into like stocks. And
he was the banker.
Yeah, I was a banker. Real quick, right around 2010, I got into banking. And he was doing all our taxes after that. Yeah, so actually, IRS, anybody working from the IRS hears that, and do not go back and check any of those. I really know what I was doing back then, but I was learning with these guys. But no, actually, we fast forward then to like 2015, 2016. We always had talks of like doing businesses, and nothing ever really stuck of whatever one wanted to do. 2017. Governor Murphy started to run for governor of New Jersey, and he was running his campaign heavily on legalizing cannabis for social equity purposes and social justice reasons, because of the amount of people from communities of color that are locked up for minor cannabis possession. We're talking guys are in jail for 10, 15 years for possessing less than $100 worth of cannabis. And there are people in certain states across the country doing life for less than $10 worth of cannabis. So there's a lot of social justice reasons for legalizing cannabis. It's not just about being a business. It's not just about big business. It's really about correcting a lot of wrongs that were done in a lot of communities across the country and across the world, for that matter. But the U.S. was a big pusher of criminalizing cannabis back in the 30s. So in 2017, when Governor Murphy started to talk about legalizing it, the business side of me was like, hold the hell on. We've been indirectly in this industry for the last 18 years of our lives. We know the entire supply chain, from cultivating to processing to distributing. Why don't we look at, starting our own business? And when I started to think of that idea, I went to Johnathan. As the first person I went to was Johnathan, because he has always been the person who was educated on cannabis. And you'll hear throughout this entire interview, the word education will come up a lot, because it's very important for cannabis. It's not just about finding the strongest strain or finding the one that gets you the highest or anything like that, one that makes you the slumpiest. There's an education in being a conscious consumer as to why you're buying a certain product and what you're going to use it for. So he was the one.
Even that's the truth. But that when he sat down and asked me, like, yo, I want to get into the cannabis industry. What if let's do it? Like, what if we do this together? I looked at him, and that was my first thing. The first statement was, well, we have to re-educate everybody. Like, that's the whole, we have to start. If we're going to do this and we're going to do it right, we'd have to start with re-educating everybody. Because we had to re-educate ourselves. We had to relearn everything ourselves on what this plan actually is and what it's actually doing for us.
And what was even crazier is being so embedded in cannabis for so long, we were thinking 30 years down the line, we're like, yo, let's get into industrial hemp and make like plastic and t-shirts and stuff like that. People didn't even know about CBD yet. So it was like, we had to like pump the brakes a little bit, come back to the beginning of the plant, and explain to people that cannabis is, there's like two separate plants underneath the name cannabis. You have marijuana, which everyone knows as being high in delta 9 THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, which gets you high, gives you that euphoric high effect. But then the male plant, or the non-feminized plant of hemp, or industrial hemp, is what produces higher levels of CBD, low levels of THC, and gives you the seeds and the oils and the stalks and fibers to do all the t-shirts and all that other cool stuff out of. So we had to kind of bring it all the way back and say, you know what, we do need to re-educate everyone. So let's start our business plan before we get into selling stuff. Let's get into education. And that started us in 2017, 2018. And then in 2019, we realized, and again, we were very bright-eyed and we thought cannabis was going to be legalized right out of the gate in 2018. We learned that, then we learned pulling back politics in business, and then politics in a brand new business, and then politics in a brand new business, which is taking a federally won illegal substance and selling it to the open market. That's not done in 100 days, and it goes to show he's not even done in like 365 days. But we realized there was a big market for hemp and CBD on the medicinal and therapeutic level, and for people who A, don't like to use marijuana, or B, like to use marijuana but need something to use during the day that doesn't give them the euphoric high. So when we were diving back into re-educating ourselves, we really learned, and the industry and the market and everyone started to really learn, CBD is its own separate business, and so is hemp. And though it is cannabis, it's not marijuana, it's not plant touching. It has its own separate legality to it. So we were able to start Garden State Hemp, which is one of our first brands that we created in the retail space to help people have a safe space, a comfortable place to come learn, get educated, and purchase high quality products that they're not necessarily getting ripped off for. Because when we started in this industry, you had people selling, and
snake oil.
Joke, snake oil, or just regular seed oil, saying it had CBD in it and selling it for $500. When I promise you, we don't have a product on our shelves that touch $500, and we have extremely high quality, high dose CBD products. We have products that go over $200 because they're like 5,000, 4,000 milligrams of raw, high quality hemp seed, or not hemp seed, but CBD oil. But there should be no reason somebody was buying a 500 milligram bottle of hemp seed oil for $500. Wow. It was just, people were getting ripped off in the industry. So you needed a place where people could come get educated, learn the differences, and learn what a good high quality product is, and kind of what the pricing of that product should be. So that's kind of the backstory of what got us started. But when our first company was called Green Passion Industries, and that's what we opened up Garden State Hemp under. And we'll also look to open up a Class 5 retailing license for marijuana products. So we want to own a dispensary as well. We always want to stay in education. So we have a big box kind of idea of what we want to bring to the market. We want to create conscious consumers and then give them high quality products and safe places to go and purchase them, whether it's hemp, CBD, marijuana, all across the board of any cannabis product. We want to be able to bring to the market a place where people can come and purchase those products from and be trusted. And the biggest problem in our industry is you could have 100 people trying to sell you something and you can only trust one of the 100 people. So it takes a lot of legwork to get people to trust you first.
Yeah, with any industry, especially new ones, I know now, crypto and NFT and all this stuff, it's like a Wild West because it's very intriguing. You want to get involved. You kind of want to be the first or one of the early adapters, but then there's this like steep learning curve, and then there's the dealing with the people that hype things up to then backstab you, and then trying to understand who's who. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you want to educate people, because, and then you say the word conscious, you're educating people so they can make the right decision. So you could help them instead of them kind of just throwing them into like a playground and being like, "Oh, have some fun." and then come back whenever you're ready again. But like you're like, hey, maybe your leg don't work that well. Maybe don't climb that jungle gym thing. Like stay right
Yeah.
here where you could kind of work with your arms and stuff. So
It gets overwhelming for people, especially because we're talking about a product like cannabis. Who, yes, there's a huge majority of people who have used cannabis behind closed doors. And I always think it's funny when you have like a family that comes into our store for the first time, and you'll have like a mom, dad, brother, and like a sister. And through conversations, the dad says something about when he consumed cannabis back in the day, and the son looks at him like, "Oh, but I got grounded for it when I was 15." But you've used it, and you see those revelations where it's like it's not new. It's like people have been using it for years, whether it was behind closed doors. But you also have a large one of our second biggest our consumer base are people who are 55 and older, and some of these people never have used cannabis before in their life, so they think CBD is going to get them high. So they're scared of. They come into the store and they're the ones who say, I will not ingest anything. Don't show me a capsule. Don't show me. I only want a topical. But through a educational conversation where you're making a conscious consumer out of somebody, what ends up happening, they end up leaving with the capsule because they learn their pain or their fibromyalgia or their arthritis that they're dealing with is best suited by something that is going to work systemically. That when they ingest it, will work with their body's endocannabinoid system in a way that will actually get to the root cause of that pain and not just mask it like a topical.
And sometimes it's even a slow it's a slow progression sometimes. Sometimes they come in one day, they come in 1 week, and you get like, they're coming for a few times the next week, and then the following, month or so, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, that person that said I'm never ingesting anything now is buying gummies and buying a tincture, and it's just like, and now they're bringing their friends in, they're bringing,
or even buying hemp flower and smoking it for the first time.
Yeah.
After never wanting to ingest the thing. Now that because you can actually smoke hemp flower, which looks, smells, feels the same as marijuana or weed, but will not get you high. I don't care how much you smoke it, how much of it you smoke. You won't get you'll go to sleep, but you won't get high from it.
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming for somebody who's brand new, never used a product before, doesn't want to ingest anything, because even when you look at our topical shelf, we probably have 12 different topicals, like 5 different sizes. There's probably a total of like 20 or 30 SKUs. So it comes down to which topical do I use? And now it can come down to a personal preference question of somebody that wants a lotion over a cream, or maybe a balm or a salve that's a little bit more oily. And then it comes to somebody who does want to even ingest an oil. We have 20 different SKUs of oils. But you have to, what ends up happening when you ask somebody the questions that they should be asked, they start to pick themselves because of either personal preference or dietary reasons. You have products that use almond oil and they're allergic that they can't use. So you can kind of get down to it. All right, yes, we carry 12 different products, but for you, the best for you would be of these 3. Now it's a personal choice which one you'd like to try first. And you make their life so much easier. They're like, well, this is so much more simpler than I thought it was going to be. Because when I walked into the gas station and saw 12 different CBD products, I asked the guy, what do I use for pain? And he just pointed to that and said, use it. Our biggest advantage to gas stations selling CBD, please don't ever buy any cannabis product from a gas station. or even a CVS, because that's the biggest question people ask us, well, how do you compete with a pharmacy? Well, that pharmacist probably spent 15 years in college and never once was explained to how the endocannabinoid system works, because it's not taught in medical schools. So we work with cannabis and we work with cannabis products only. That's what we spend our entire day learning about. Our advantage, you could go to a CVS, you can go to a ShopRite and find CBD. You're going to ask some 17-year-old stock boy who doesn't know anything about it. When you come to us, we're able to break down the plant, your body, the science behind it, which is one of John's favorite things, and explain to you how it's going to work best for you, or just what products might work best for you based off of our previous knowledge, because we've used it for so long. And we try to make that process simpler for people and empower them with the tools to be like, well, you know what? Now I can go anywhere and ask a question and know whether or not the person across the counter knows what they're talking about. And I think we've heard that more than anything. People come in and become a repeat shopper because they're like, I went somewhere else and I asked them 3 of the questions I asked you, and they're answered literally horrified me, and I had to leave. And they learned where they can trust shopping, and that's what we want to build.
It's powerful. That's so important. Yeah, you go in and you get so hypnotized by all the things, and then so a topical. Could you just explain what that is for anyone who doesn't know? Is that's not what you smoke,
Anyone
right?
wrong with that one?
It's
So yeah, so a topical is literally just any lotion or cream that you're gonna just put like right on your skin, right on
on
any kind of
top.
area. Yeah, on top. So so that's why it really comes down to your personal preference, whether it's some people like a nice cream that absorbs right away, so you don't want to keep feeling it, it absorbs right up. Some people want something with a little menthol in it, like some athletes who like that coldness or like that icy hot kind of feel. So you have some CBD with that. And the whole key is like your endocannabinoid system, you have receptors in your skin, and these receptors respond to CBD, and they also respond to have anti-inflammatory responses. So they help with any kind of inflammation and even kind of any kind of they increase some blood flow too, because CBD can also work as a vasodilator. So it can also kind of help with any kind of blood flow to really help relieve the pain, any kind of tension, inflammation, and also any kind of spasms. So any kind of people who have muscle spasms. So that's why the topicals, you can roll those in. The oils are going to get a little deeper because the oils, just gets in deeper, but it also has, leaves a little oily after feeling. So people who don't like that. So that's why it really comes down to your literally personal preference, when it comes down
Yeah,
to those different topicals and oils.
that's so cool. Yeah, I know people firsthand they use the CBD stick, and it helps them, and they use the gummies, and so it's really nice that you're out here, really trying to help people and educate them instead of just because it's such a crazy industry where a lot of money people are willing to spend a lot on it on anything, but I could see that you both have a long-term vision for what you're doing, and you really want to build a clientele and a community of people that are enlightened and educated, and that's just such a powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely a community, because even sometimes you'll have people who come in and ask questions about CBD products with no intention of using them themselves. They ask a question and you're going down just a list of certain things that it's helped you with, or people that you've already worked with. And they're like, wow, you know what? My mother or my father, who are in their 80s and 90s, are suffering from arthritis and this, that, and would this help them? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. And then you ask them, what have they been using? And they go down a list of Oxycontin, Ambien, Xanax, and they go down, and you're like, wait a minute, all at the same time? And you're like, and some people are like, yeah.
Well, the
like
Oxycontin to help you with the Xanax to help with your Oxycontin, and it's just freaking.
And then all of a sudden you explain to them what CBD does, and they're like, this is entirely plant-based. And they buy something for their parents, and they're like, and they see how it works, and then they slowly they're slowly using it more and more on their parents. And you've had some people who come in and say they've even weaned themselves down to lower doses of other pharmaceutical medicines that they've had to take. We've had some people who come in and try certain CBD flowers, and they're using less insulin on days they have certain strains that we can carry than they have to use on days where they can't get that same strain. So you're making a difference in people's lives, and you're helping them have like a better quality of life, where I think that's the most fun and the most fulfilling part of the job, is just actually being able to, just being able to see people coming in and actually make a difference in them. And you're just like, to think it's been illegal for so long, how many people it could have helped in the past 50 or 60 years.
Wow.
But never had the opportunity to.
That's something else. It's just beautiful to hear these stories, and it's true. I see people out here, and they're literally being like, "Yo, I want CBD for this. Oh, I was trying this for years, that this doctor gave me, and it didn't work." And as you were saying earlier, you were asking them all these questions. No one from everyone I know, everyone's so different, just from who we are as people, then of course our chemical balance and how we're made, and you know we have we all have mostly the same amount of chromosomes, but we're so different. Like our genetics, there's so many different things about us that are different. Like who could be out in the sun, who can't be out in the sun, who could eat this, who can't eat this, allergies. There's all these things that are so different. Even though outside we're like, oh, we're all humans, but inside there's so many moving parts to us. It's so crazy. That,
and and even with like cannabis and CBD products and dosing, it's we rely very heavily on like people's body sizes to kind of help with dosing, but even that I have seen break down to be different because it typically like the bigger the person, the higher the dose it'll take to get to like a certain therapeutic level. But I've seen a 6'4", 250 guy take like 50 milligrams of CBD and be knocked out and take a good nap. Same 50 milligrams on a 5', 90-pound woman, and she goes to yoga class right after, and she's totally fine.
wow.
So it's like it can be, you know, there's a lot of different determining factors in it, and I think that will be the best part as more legalization comes around and as you get to like federal decriminalization and rescheduling. The more research we get to explore inside of cannabis, the more we'll uncover about it, and that will be that'll be like the next big thing, because we think it's getting big now. People are like, oh my God, cannabis is being legalized all over the place. It's being legalized for adult use and tax purposes, and how we can use science, plant-based science with cannabis, and start to make it and start to really help people on more of a therapeutic level.
And we need it. And I think we just need this education so we could at least make the decisions. Because there's just in the world of options, you could get lost and you could get so bundled up. You're like, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'll just take what the doctor told me. And you know, nothing against doctors. You know, not all of them are bad. They have good intentions, but I've seen mixed results with some really strong medicines, and I've seen them literally turn very close people of mine into zombies, and they've literally lost control of themselves. And then I've seen people do the CBD and like literally some amazing results. So it's, you know, I try to encourage anyone I know to talk to, like, you know, try to find the purest way to take care of yourself, because once you get on some medicine thing, once you get on these drugs, then you need to take another
You're
one.
stuck.
And then, yeah, and it like you need to keep it going. Otherwise, something else crazily could happen to you. And it's a big fear of mine. And so for me, I always try to just stay balanced. You know, I don't probably eat the worst or the best, but if I don't feel well, I try to just, you know, I took like one Tylenol the other day because I had like the longest week. I literally felt it because I just never take stuff, and I literally
Yeah.
felt it like 5 minutes later. I'm like, wow, I feel so different because I never
Like I
take
took
it.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it did help me. It relieved my pain. And I was like, but I was like, I see how people could get hooked because it literally just relieved everything I was feeling in that moment. And my body was shot. It was like 60 plus hours of just labor during the week. And I was like, wow, I see how people could just keep wanting these feelings.
And imagine, yeah, those stronger pills and those, yeah,
Oh
those
my
ones,
God.
and that create a little euphoria, and you know all those different spikes, and yeah, it's
And I was like, wow,
narcotics.
I gotta be, and I know I've seen people, and I literally know people firsthand that are just there. It's hard for them to live. It's like what they're going through, and I'm like, I wish they had an alternative, or I wish they had some bit of education instead of someone kind of pushing a pill on them.
And then
First
the
thing,
funny thing is, like they'll run to these pills, and but they'll second guess any kind of cannabis or any kind of CBD because of everything we've been told, you know, and everything we've been, like you're saying, it comes down to that kind of that education.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's like the doctor said this pill, And it's just like, well, so for some of that minor and moderate pain, you can probably use some cannabis or some CBD oil or something to kind of help you with that. Like I said, it comes with education.
And you know, kind of to start digging at like where the cause of that issue, I think, at least personally, where I think a part of that issue comes from is the doctors aren't educated on cannabis. Nurses aren't educated on cannabis unless they go out and do their own education against what, you know, the state board license says they're allowed to go do, or, you know, actually tell some of their patients to go try it and get patient results back, you know, on their own, which again, they're told they're not allowed to do. And some of them just do it anyway. You know, they don't get educated on, you know, that plant-based option for especially of cannabis. You know, I've never gone to med school, so I don't know what they learn about other plant-based options, but I know cannabis is not taught in med school. So if a doctor's uneducated about it, I have a good friend of ours who was in a car accident recently, and she was in the hospital for a few days, and she absolutely hates narcotics, does not like Oxycontins, doesn't like morphine, does not like those feelings. And she asked some of the nurses and doctors at the hospital, she goes, well, is there any way that you guys can give me CBD or write me a prescription for cannabis to use for some of the pain? And they're like, oh no, we don't do that here. We absolutely no, we can't prescribe that from the hospital or anything like that. And I think right there is a cause, because 9 times out of 10, nobody knows to come ask me and Johnathan at the small store in Garden State Hemp in Millburn about pain. They're going to go to their doctor first. And if their doctors aren't educated about it, their doctors can't even say, go find a CBD store to ask more about it. So one of the things that we have found to be very lucky for us is that there are a couple of doctors' offices in Millburn who actually came to us and asked us about our products, what we carry on our shelves. Sometimes grilled Johnathan without him knowing who they were first, and him talking about this, that, and the third, receptors and connectors. They're just like, holy shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. And literally an hour later, one of the doctors literally asked one of his customers to come over and talk to us, and he winds up getting a bottle of capsules that he now purchases every month. So when the doctors get a little educated on it, those are the people that everyone goes to first when they have something wrong with them. They don't go to their local hemp store, local CBD shop. They don't even go to the doctor and ask them about medical marijuana. You know, we've had medical marijuana in the state of New Jersey for going on almost. Well, when did we
get passed it?
Yeah. Well, no, Corzine passed it on the last day in office before Christie took over to leave. Like, here you go, here's your present. And that was in 2000. That was in 2000. That was actually in 2000 because that was in 2010. 2010. Christie did two stints as governor, so he was here for 8 years, and then we had Governor Murphy. So in 11 years, we've had a medical marijuana program in the state of New Jersey. And up until 2019, we only had like 19,000 patients out of 9 million residents. So it was a very, very hard program to get into. People weren't allowed to ask their doctors about it. Doctors had to be on a certain list to be able to talk to their patients about it. 90% of doctors didn't want their name on a website somewhere saying that we prescribe medical marijuana. So it was a very tough program to get into. And I think that all stems down to the fact that cannabis is federally illegal. Because it's federally illegal, state boards don't allow their doctors to learn about it. Doctors don't learn about it. Patients don't learn about it. And now we have a mass majority of consumers who think cannabis is harmful and thinks reefer madness things where you can, inject cannabis, a joint into your arm, and it causes psychedelic trips. And that's not the case. It's not a dangerous substance. And to be honest with you, water could be a dangerous substance if you drown somebody with it. So it's all about educated, conscious consumers using something responsibly, which is why I hate the term recreational cannabis, because recreational to me means you're going to the park and anybody can play. Like a 10-year-old can jump on a game with a 15-year-old, 18-year-old can play with a 20-year-old. Adult use cannabis is what we advocate for, because 21 and older, when you're an adult, you have the right to learn about it and learn if it's something you want to use, whether therapeutically or if you're self-diagnosing, if you someone who's just constantly stressed and you enjoy taking a gummy bear or smoking a joint for it. I don't believe somebody should have to go get on a medical program and get a card just to be able to use marijuana for their stress and anxiety. if you want to get it
Yeah.
it's a better program and they don't charge taxes on medical marijuana, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Go grab your card for that reason. But I don't think you should force people to do it. So it's the restrictiveness around cannabis from the top down level, and it's gone on since 1930, since 1972 when they put it on the Controlled Substance Act as a Schedule 1 controlled substance, in which our federal government says marijuana is
even worse than cocaine.
And cocaine, yes, cocaine is a Schedule 2.
Marijuana Schedule 1.
And marijuana is Schedule 1. So according to our federal government, cannabis is more dangerous than cocaine. And I think if we look at the last 50 years, we know that that's not the case.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could argue most of the things that were labeled dangerous were very helpful. Sebi.
Yeah. I like that.
The dangerous people somehow were helping many, but they were helping them in a way that wasn't benefiting a bigger brother, and it created a conflict. So when conflict happens, rest in peace to Sebi, and so many people out there that are out finding ways to help others and educating others, because it really makes a difference. And I could see kind of the issues or the conflict that you could dealing with, there's these big companies, that they've had a system for a long time, and it's worked quite well.
But the problem now is that this has become a thing that now you can't avoid anymore. Like now your regular mom who's sitting there before, like, oh my God, cannabis is bad, is not looking at it like, well, it's helping all my friends. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I might not do it, I might not want to do it, but it's helping my friends, and it's really not as bad as we think. So it's becoming this big monster, this green monster that you could try to lie about it and do what you can, but now it's in everybody's face. So now, the U.S. is being faced with that issue. Like, well, the U.S. government, because the people are already saying, yeah, we want it, so it's now the government's to the point where it's just like, all right, well, we can't lie about this anymore. We can't say that it's all this, that, because it's obviously states are legalizing it for medical use, and we're still sitting here saying that there's no medical claims for it. So it's it's just time for them to kind of get on board and see what the nation is asking for, what the people are asking for.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a matter of if anymore, just so much of a I don't think it's a matter of if, it's more of like a matter of when. You have, like you said, you have these big companies with a certain agenda that they've had for a long time. They've made a lot of money doing it, and they have a lot of connections, and they make a lot of contributions to certain people who make a lot of these laws. But they're more so spending the money to hold us off, and hold cannabis off, as opposed to trying to get it to just, they can't shut us out anymore. Cannabis is coming. They're trying to buy enough time to find their way in. That's what their biggest goal is now. They're just trying to buy time, and I wish I had $100 million to throw at a situation to buy time at, like some of these pharmaceutical companies, but they're literally just buying time before they make their way in. And
once it's federally legal, they're going to be in it. Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of federal legalization of cannabis. Descheduling, decriminalization, yes, but you can't just open the floodgates and let, a company like Pfizer be able to take $1 billion of their revenue and now shift it over to what they want to do in cannabis. They can buy the market.
Yeah.
And at that point, you lose. Cannabis is a plant. And the further away you get away from the farm, the further away you get away from the purity. So once we start mass producing these plants in Pfizer's warehouse, we're getting away from the sun touching them. We're getting away from the dirt. We're getting away from the love of the farmers doing it, and you get away from the purity of cannabis. Then they'll have to take the plant and do some synthesizing and chemical reactions to it in the lab so that they can get. And that's when you start to lose. A lot of people forget, and John was one of the first people that made me click. He goes, opioids started from a plant too. That OxyContin started from a plant at one point. That was opioids were plant.
All these things started from penicillin was a fungus.
Once the further you get away from the root of it, it becomes that pill that now companies are paying doctors bonuses to pump more of it into people, and that's when you lose the trust of the plant. It's there needs the community in cannabis is what I think keeps the industry as close knit and also as like kind of competitive as it is. Like in cannabis, we love competition. I love to get 10 growers in a room because they all start talking about like, oh no, well I do this and you do that. Why? And then the next thing you know, they just formed a great idea. And the next thing you know, we get the best strain coming from these two guys growing together. All because it starts out as competition, which becomes brainstorming, which then turns into like the next great idea. And a lot of the time,
competition for like for better medicine, for better like for that better plan. Like how can we grow this better? How can we make this grow more terpenes, or grow a better profile, or that can actually benefit somebody, actually help more, where we're not just focused on these one certain things, or like say like the certain, once you get into these big companies, it's just gonna be just the high THC percent, just this, just that. Well, it's just like, well, that's not like it's good, it's great and all, but how's it really gonna help people? Like how can you really help people when you start breaking it down to all these different profiles? And then all these growers are like, yo, I notice when I do this, we get more terps. Yo, and when I do this, I notice like a better profile. And then you get those ideas coming together. It's for the betterment of the plant and of the people, the consumer who's getting, the end consumer.
Yeah, it's not just better for the stockholder. It's not better for the bottom line. It's not better for the profit line. It's not better for revenues. It's better for the people, better for the consumers, better for the market. That's why I love cannabis the way it is. It's a very competitive industry, but it's because everyone's trying to compete to get the next best strain. And 10 years ago, we were all talking about sour diesel. I haven't heard people talk about sour diesel anymore. Now I'm hearing people talk about runts or gelato,
yeah.
or the Obama runts or the Oreos, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm still trying to smoke some of the newer OGs that were coming out in like 2019, and I'm like, we're already like 30 different strains in, and that's what's fun about the industry. It's in a competition because then you get two guys together who take their strain and make something else because they want to kind of get the best of both worlds, and that's what's fun about it. I fear the big companies getting into it. It literally becomes what you see on CNBC, which I'm an avid watcher of. Two companies who do the same thing, who are only competing about having the biggest market share. They just want the most customers. They just want the biggest profit. Their stockholders just want the biggest dividends. And in cannabis, everyone, the true cannabis industry understands that like profits are an afterthought. People are the first thought. The patients are the first thought. And profits come when you take care of your patients. And those profits can go right back into those patients. And the patients keep coming back. And the community likes to like build each other up. And me and John are number one examples of that, because we literally just went through the whole Ida flood where the store behind me, was devastated. And, community members of the cannabis community were, setting up different raffles and different events for us to come to and get money donated to us and things like that, because all of these people sell CBD, sell cannabis products, sell hemp, all which of what we do also, but they wanted to make sure we were okay. And it's like, that is what the cannabis community does. It's like you could have 10 CBD companies in the same room. They're all going to, something's different about everyone's product, and everyone's going to be able to talk to consumers, educate them about their product and or what they offer. And those customers will buy something from them. It doesn't need to just be cutthroat and cut the next person out of the picture. And I think that's what's very unique about the cannabis industry now.
That's
what we try to preserve now.
It's very human, because everyone had humble beginnings. It's not this inherited $1 billion trust fund thing. It's you guys made discoveries as young men, just enjoying life, growing a passion for something, and now you're growing a passion for growing and helping people, and it's just dope to see. And maybe you could even talk about this too, because two men of color, there's struggles for people of color to get access to ownership in the industry. Maybe you could talk about that, and maybe some advice and anything you could share with us.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, cannabis is an industry that's obviously very brand new, on the brink of being born in so many states. And in the entire industry right now, you have less than 4% of companies that are owned by minorities. So it's already an industry that seems to be trying to shut out the minority communities, which this industry was built on. When you look at the legacy market, you look at arrest records across the nation, people of color were 3.5 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis possession of any other social group. So obviously, when you go, and even if I wanted to date it back to 1930, when Harry Enslinger was the first director of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and he's quoted as saying it was easier to make marijuana illegal than it was to make it illegal to be either black or Hispanic. So when you have the narcotics director saying a line like that, you obviously know the laws are built in an undertone of discrimination. So people of color, because cannabis has become such a capital intensive industry, you need a lot of money to get into it, you need a lot of money to survive in it. You tend to see a lot of these companies be heavily capitalized by private equity markets, because you can't just walk into a bank and get a loan. You can't walk up to the SBA and ask for a small business loan to start a cannabis company. They turn you around with some pretty funny words after really quickly. So you have to, a lot of people start with, friends and family asking, borrowing money from there. So when you have people of color that have historically come from, not having as much capital, access to private equity capital as people who come from richer, more affluent areas, or you have people who come from families who don't historically, like you say, have trust funds passed down, after generation after generation. It's a very small window of places to try to start your business, or you have to try to start from the ground up and build something, off your own back and bootstrap it. A lot of the issues, people coming from these communities that were devastated by the war on drugs and the war on cannabis, they don't have the same, knowledge of running a business or how to bootstrap a business from the ground up. A lot of these guys have been hustling their whole lives and hustling on the block their whole lives, selling whatever they can get their hands on to make an easy flip and get money. So a big thing I always try to kind of give advice for is learn the ins and outs of how smaller private equity deals get done. Try to learn a little bit about, valuating a company. There's a piece of education. Yeah,
my big one is read books. Like, read on what you don't know and what you don't understand. One of the biggest things when you're getting into it and learning everything, especially as a person of color who, I got up to college, but I dropped out of college to kind of just keep working and pursue my own dreams. It's like anything that you don't understand and don't learn, you got to pick up a book and start reading about it, and then start asking questions. Ask the questions that you don't know. If you're sitting at these meetings, luckily I always say, I have a Carl. He understands business and has that perspective, a different perspective than I do. So it's like when I don't understand something, I'll turn to him and be like, no, you got to look at it like this. And I was like, yo, you know what? I didn't even think about to look at it that way. So it's like, don't be afraid to ask questions, use your resources. But my biggest thing is read about what you don't understand.
And I'm actually going to piggyback right on what John said about that, because we did a podcast with a group of people who were legacy to legal as well, people who would work in the legacy market and have actually gone into the legal industry, some of them actually owning licenses in Massachusetts. And one guy said, this guy Dave said something so on point, and like me and Johnathan have been doing it without realizing we were doing it. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than yourselves in areas that you're not that great in. And me and Johnathan did that right off the bat, because the funny thing is, I love business. I loved cannabis. I love marijuana. I love weed. I loved hemp. I love CBD. I loved it all. But I didn't know the science behind it, right? I didn't know the body's endocannabinoid. I learned all of that stuff from John. Johnathan understood some things about business. He didn't always understand the balance sheet part of it and the building the business plan and the market research and all that. So he asked me those questions. So now if we go back and forth, we'll be sitting in a seminar and somebody will be talking about something, more like in depth in like science or biology terms. I see Johnathan sitting here shaking his head, and I'm sitting here like, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. I look at him, I'm like, what's he talking about? And John starts breaking it. I'm like, oh, so it has to do with synapses and connect. Oh, I get it. I got it. So you have to surround yourself with people who know the things that you don't. So if you're somebody who is looking to get into cannabis, like myself, who knew business but didn't know the science behind cannabis, well, get yourself surrounded by somebody that knows the science behind cannabis. If you're somebody who knows the supply chain of cannabis, you've been a long time hustler and you know how to get it from point A to point B, but you don't understand business, get somebody in your circle that understands business. And you could, if you're somebody that doesn't understand numbers and finances, but you know how to make something that was $10 and sell it for 20, get somebody on your team that understands finances. Because as long as everyone in the group knows the whole nucleus, your group is strong. You can't rely on one person. The group can't rely on two people. And even me and John now, we're starting to build ourselves a team of people who know the things that we don't. So we know cannabis. We've obviously opened up a business, but now we're looking to expand that business and make it bigger. We need people on our team that have expanded businesses and learned how, and have made businesses grow before, because that's where we want to get to. And there's going to be at some point, we need to be able to ask someone a question who knows something we don't. So this is an industry that there's a lot of barriers. Biggest two things, like Jonathan says, read some books, learn the things you don't know. And then especially if you're looking to get into cannabis, if you're looking to get into this industry, you need to learn the laws of the land that you're looking to open your business in. So we wanted to do business in New Jersey, and I can't tell you how many times people told us, and sometimes I think we should have taken this advice, go to a state that's a little easier to get into than New Jersey, because New Jersey's laws are tough. We were like, no, we're going to get into Jersey. This is our backyard. We want to own it. So we started reading laws. And then the first one that came out was like 300 pages. The second one's 260 pages. Best piece of advice is split that up between two people, come back and compare, compare notes. But you have to learn the laws. You have to learn the rules of the state that you want to work in. And then you have to learn the rules of the municipality that you want to work in, because the municipality's rules based off of the state's rules, but they'll always be a little bit different. So, it's not, I actually always compare, I love to compare, the cannabis industry to the music industry, because both are extremely complex. Both have a million different ways to get the same deal done. But if you don't understand the ins and outs of what you are and are not allowed to do, you're always going to leave yourself to either get taken advantage of, or you're going to leave yourself to get left behind. So you have to know what you can and cannot do. And that's the biggest portion. That's the biggest piece that I like to try to give people advice on. And it's not the sexy part of the industry. It's not, it's not the cultivating. It's not the taking the flower and turning it into a cart. It's not the selling of the weed. There's a lot of part about being an entrepreneur that's not sexy. And that's the part they don't tell you. There's a lot of parts about being an entrepreneur that aren't sexy.
And going from legacy to legal, from going from that legacy market to legal, it's not, well, when you want to start paying your taxes, you got to start, crossing your T's and dotting your I's and really paying attention to what's what.
Yeah. Went from working with cannabis and always trying to avoid the law to now working with cannabis and needing to be transparent and open with the government and tell them exactly what you're doing, exactly how much weed you have on you at any given time, how much you're selling.
Yes, sir, I'm growing this plant to hopefully produce 2 pounds, so I can take those 2 pounds and then break it down into these quarters, so I can do that, and then by that I'll give you this much in taxes. Okay, are we good?
So there's a lot of parts of, especially about this industry, and it's the same with music. Everyone always sees the music industry and they see the person on stage performing in front of 100,000 people. They don't ever think about the time where that person was performing in front of 3, constantly performing in front of 3, constantly only performing in front of your friends and family that showed up, right? It wasn't even support. It was the same people over and over again. So there's a lot of part of being a business owner in this industry that aren't fun, aren't attractive, extremely stressful, extremely deterring. I can't even tell you how many times people looked at me and Johnathan the minute we said we want to own a dispensary. They're like, do young guys of color not really backed up with personal cash, and you guys don't think it's going to be a little competitive? It's like, not any more competitive it would have been if we wanted to say we wanted to be doctors. It's tough for us. So you know, people are always going to count you out. They're always going to try to put you down and try to tell you to, you know, look about doing something a little bit differently. But, you know, we put our head down. We know what we wanted to do. When we set out in 2017, we said we were going to own a CBD store, and then we were going to own a dispensary, and then we were going to do this, that, and the third. And it's like, we've owned the CBD store for, which is going on 2 years now. Our 2-year anniversary is popping up. A couple setbacks and, you know, snags in between. But a pandemic, a flood, you know, there's been a lot of things that's popped up since, but, you know, we did it. We did get to that CBD store. We did open it. And it's like, I don't doubt that we'll get to the dispensary. We'll get that open. It's like, when we've said we were going to do it, we're going to do it. But they definitely don't make it easy in this industry for people who coming from smaller backgrounds that aren't well capitalized, that don't have millions of family dollars to put behind it. But there are ways to get it done. You have to just be open. You have to know what you want to do. It's a lot like Shark Tank, right? You have to know your business, know your numbers, know your goal, and understand your plan of how to get to that goal. And then it comes down to execution. If you could prepare yourself all 4 steps before that, but if you don't execute, nothing matters. It was a waste of time. Yeah. You did a lot of planning for someone else to go execute your dreams for you.
That's powerful. Yeah, I love it. I'm really inspired by your story. I think what you both are doing is amazing. I think it's even cooler to just see, you know, 2 dudes that, you know, grew up just having fun together, and now you're having fun together, but you built a community in Jersey and beyond, educating people, helping people, healing people. And I just think it's a beautiful thing, and I just love seeing people work as a team. I've been interviewing a lot of teams, whether they're couples that work together, you know, friends that grew up together, just co-workers or co-partners. So it's just, I'm seeing how you both vibe, and it's just really dope to see this. And I can't wait to, you know, I haven't even been in the shop. I know, you know, you had a crazy last few months. You said Hurricane Ida really, you know, went to town, and you're reopening soon. And you guys, you know, no matter what has happened, because 2 years ago the pandemic was hitting, and that's literally during the time where you opened a public spot where people weren't able to go out in public, and like here you are in a week or two reopening despite all these, you know, obstacles. So and I could see you both do your homework, you both have your skills, you both complement each other. So I see why nothing's stopping you. You know, you've done you're doing the research, you're doing the work, you're setting the goals. You both play your strong suits. You rely on each other for what the other person's good at, and it's like a true team, you know, and it's really good to see.
Yeah, it's important to build a good team. As I always tell anybody that wants to do anything entrepreneur, like, build a team. There's very few things that you can do yourself, and there's very few times where you can do it all yourself. So if you don't have a team, then you're setting yourself up for. Listen, I'm not saying it's impossible. I know there's all people out there that have done it from the ground up, but you know, there's not a lot of people that are built for it, and I know I'm not one of them. Right? I know I'm not one of them. Try to do it all on myself. Like, I will admit where I'm shortful at, and I'm not one of those people that can do it all myself, especially with the task that we tried to take on with the cannabis industry. Like that, no, absolutely not. It's crazy, man. It's rewarding, and you know, there's a lot of. The funniest thing I always say is that entrepreneurship was nothing that I thought it was going to be when I jumped into it. No. The only thing I think that has held true that I was like, yo, it's going to be a stressful job, but I'm going to love it. It is stressful. I do love it. Everything else about it, I was 100% wrong about everything.
Care less about sometimes.
Yeah. Everybody's like, hey, you'd have so much more free time. Where is the time they speak of? And it's like,
that's what freedom is.
And everyone's always like, oh no, it's only because, you know, like you haven't broke through yet. You haven't, like, once you're making the money you want to make. I'm like, no, because then I got to keep making the money I want to make.
Yeah.
it's like if I'm this stressed and I'm not making the money I want to make, I can only imagine how stressed I'm going to be when I'm making the money I want to make. It's like, what do you mean it gets easier then? No, never. I haven't seen it get easier since. We opened the store 3 months later, the pandemic opened. We're closed down for 3 months. We open up, we're open for 10 months, we're closing for 3 months. It's no, that lied to me.
But when
But
you
it's
have
dope.
when you have a calling, you know, you answered, and you know, you things just made sense, but you made it make sense when it didn't make sense by asking questions, doing the research, you know, doing the nitty gritty, not fun, robotic stuff where you have to read 300 pages. Like that separates, you know,
It's robotic language, let me tell you.
Yeah. That separates.
legal language and like bills and ordinances and stuff like that they're not an easy read. It's not fun to read.
I'm a reader. I love to read. Oh, but these bills and these laws, no, forget about it.
But then what's always funny is it always comes, Dave, you're 100% right with what you were saying though, because it always comes full circle, because we have read probably 1,500 pages worth of legal jargon and bills and ordinances and stuff like that over the past 2 years. And every time we're reading it, one of us complains about it, says something like, oh my God, this stuff, like, I can't keep reading this. My eyes hurt. And then we'll be on like a regulatory meeting or something like that. And people will ask questions that me and John look at each other and like, the bill says it right there. Like, how are they asking this question? And they're just like, wow, it shows you the level it puts you on when you take the time to do the work, because you're like, though we're all at the same place, I feel like I'm a little bit ahead of people, because it's like, all I did was just read the bill. I read the bill. I read the laws. I read the rules. And you could see the people that don't take the time to do it and the people that take the time to do it, and how it makes you feel like, it kind of brings it back to like, this is why I do it, because you know what? I'm 10 steps ahead of the person that's on my tail trying to get the same license I'm trying to get. So I got to do those little things that seem nauseating, taxing, and redundant, but are literally the differences between, you know, me and the business behind me. So it's the not fun things that I talk about, those non-sexy parts about being an entrepreneur, are the things that actually make you the best possible entrepreneur. Because I can't, like, so many people who are like, yo, John, how do I get in? Like, John, how do I get into the industry, man? What did you do to get into it? John literally goes, I read the law. I read what I was allowed to do, and then I did it. It's like, yeah, I read what I could do, and I didn't do what I wasn't allowed to do. That's how I got in.
Wow.
So as long as you do that, because you have so many people who are like, yo, how do I get in? So they set up a store and they're selling, you know, cannabis illegally. It's like, that's not how you get in. That's how you get kicked out real fast. That's how you get kicked out. Don't do that.
That's how you that's how you get kicked out. That's how you kick yourself out. You're only hurting yourself. It's like, yeah, you're trying to fiddle with the gray area. It's like, yeah, you want that quick money. Okay, cool. You're gonna get that money now, and you're gonna get, you know, you might get arrested and fined because of how the things are now. You might not do hard time or anything, but now you ruin your chance for an actual better future to gain an actual dispensary and do it in the long run. You know, but yeah, everyone has their own goals.
Short goal, long vision. You have to set up a bunch of small goals to get to your long vision. You can't just have one big goal. I want to set up a cannabis store and start selling weed. Can't do it illegally and think you're going to be able to do it legally 10 years down the road. You got to do a bunch of small little goals to get to your long vision. So that's, you know, and as taxing as it is, because you feel like you're never getting through those small goals as fast as you want to. Like, we wanted a dispensary 2 years ago. Sometimes you have to pivot and make the long play. And it's important. It's just, it's another reason you need a team, because sometimes you need to just sit there and vent how frustrated you are with the fact you're not where you want to be yet. Someone who understands.
That's a big thing as an entrepreneur that I didn't like. I just didn't even think about or realize. Just on like a mental health kind of note, it's just sometimes having those people around you that you can just vent to about your situation, understand your situation, as either another entrepreneur that's just trying to do it and doing it like you. Because sometimes your friends that are in these jobs, they don't understand like the perspective that you're, you know, what you know, where you're coming from when it comes to certain things and how you're discussing certain stresses. And it's just like, you know, because they punch a clock in there from 9 to 5 they punch out and that's it. You know, as an entrepreneur, it's like, no, it's around the clock. So the stresses are different. So when I go to sit there and talk to you about my stresses, like with this whole business and this store, And it's like some friends just can't. It's not for nothing. They want to. They're willing to listen, but it's like you want someone that's going to give you a little more than that, a little more feedback, a little more understanding. You know, so having that in a team and a partner, it really helps on like a mental health level, where it's just like I have someone who's riding this with me. You know,
Bro, you just said why. That's my why of this podcast and this show, is so I could literally talk to people and hear about their journeys and know that I'm not in this thing alone, you know? And I like, there have been so many times where like the business side of me would be like, oh, well, Dave, you know, I don't know your viewers, like, do you think you should keep going? And then there's my soul in me that like, yo, Noodles, you need to talk to people. You need this. This is important for you to feel okay, which I do always kind of coach myself to be okay. And I don't deal with too many stress. I don't have nearly as many legal documents to read as you guys. But you basically just said the why of my podcast and the show is just being there and talking to someone and hearing about what they're going through and encouraging and just listening and offering each other advice, and just it's everything.
Definitely.
And it's true what you said, Carl, you know, just learning those things that, you know, someone may put off, or it may seem like a huge undertaking, like, oh man, I got to learn all this. But then when you see yourself on the other side of it, like, what a difference, right? Like, I think of the stuff I learned during the pandemic, how to print socks. Like, I never knew how to print socks. I've gone on to sell hundreds of pairs of socks because I learned how to print socks.
Nice, yeah.
I never thought of making sweatpants. I've gone on to sell hundreds of pairs of sweatpants in the last few months because of learning how to do something. And that for me was it wasn't that hard. You know, you're taking on these big legal homework assignments, but you see yourself on the other side. It's like the biggest glory, you know, on top of the mountain feeling like, wow, I learned that. And now I just have to learn a little bit more here. I just have to learn a little bit more there because I already know this. Now you're not behind, you're just updating your system. And in any business, it's just, there's no ending. It's always a dot, dot, dot. That's how I see it. It's always to be continued. But that's what makes it beautiful too, because it's just constant evolution of our lives too. And that's why I love being in business too. I tell my lady, and I'm like, babe, you know, I'm never going to retire. And it's not because it's not because we're going to need money when I'm 70. It's because I want to wake up and I want to do stuff. And everything I'm doing now is to build the legacy, to keep feeding that garden when I'm older, to have 4 or 5 stores, to have 12 properties that I have to oversee, you know? So the work is never done. It's just different work. And
exactly.
Just hearing about your stories is just really freaking inspiring.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a long road and it's only getting longer.
I was talking to someone yesterday. I was like, humble beginnings. They're like, humble beginnings? How long have you been doing this? And I was like, 13 years. And I was like, they're like, well, that's a humble beginning. I'm like, you don't know. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. Because I couldn't even go into it. But I was like, because then you're turning a new chapter. And now that's a new humble beginning of like now having the brand and having a salary and figuring out what to do with maybe the extra sales that we're doing. How do we make a bigger impact here? How do we do a bigger impact there? So, and I was like, it's really a terminology, but it really is a humble beginning too, because there's always new chapters, you know? And I didn't get that scientific. It was kind of a heated debate at the moment, but you know the feeling.
You always resetting yourself. It was like we've had a couple humble beginnings in the first 2 years. It's like you open the door, COVID closes you down, you reopen real humble. Yeah, because you're real appreciative of those customers who came back after that pandemic, and then you closed down again because of a flood. And you're real appreciative of everyone who's come to your aid as you've been closed, because it's like sometimes you start thinking people are only going to come save you so many times. How many times can you get thrown around like that? But it's like, no, it's again, it always comes right back to, like we were saying before, the community. We've always tried to build a community who trusts us, because they're the ones who don't want to see us go anywhere. Me and Johnathan could always pivot and start a new business or do something else, or pick up and go somewhere else and open the business somewhere else. But the community doesn't want us to go anywhere. The community wants us to be there. The community wants us to stay. So they're the ones who come and have our back every time. So it's the humble beginnings with a great community. It's going to be the journey of our entire entrepreneurial career.
So for anyone that wants to come visit the shop or come check out, or maybe they're out of town and they want to visit online, and how could people find you and the products, or stop by and check out everything?
Our website is gardenstatehemp.net, and we have all of our products on there, with the exception of flour. Flour is sold only in stores. We don't ship flour yet. Still some legal mumbo jumbo around all of that. The store itself is located at 327.5 Springfield Avenue in Millburn, New Jersey, right on Millburn Ave, across the street from Millburn Deli. And then we are on all social media platforms at Garden State Hemp NJ. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're very heavily, very, very engaging, and we're very present on IG. So you can always find us there. We're always doing all of our updates and store links and all the events that we're ever at. We like to pop up as many events as possible. So we do pop-up events throughout the state, especially when we were closed. So we're always trying to inform everyone of where we're going to be, so they can always pop up on us if they can't make it to the store. Because we all know New Jersey traffic isn't that much fun to sit in sometimes. So sometimes if we're going to be close to their town, they like to just pop in on us. So, but definitely gardenstatehemp.net and Instagram at gardenstatehempnj.
That's beautiful. Gentlemen,
we'll definitely have the store open in a couple of weeks. So we're definitely hoping to be open by that first week of December.
First week of December, yeah.
Yeah. So what's cool, by the time this podcast airs, it will be open. Because we probably won't air it till around December. So yeah, so everyone out there, make sure to check out my homies' shop. Check them out online. These are two dudes that will sit down with you and really, talk to you. They care about people. They care about their community. They care about others. And you could just see it from the time they spend, and, the efforts they put in. And no matter what obstacle, they find a way to make their dreams a reality and support others. Dudes, you guys are always welcome back to the show. I really respect both of what you're doing, and I can't wait to check out the shop and just explore it and really see, two dudes of color that, just grew up together and really just made it happen and made their dreams a reality in a very industry where there's a lot that makes it hard for you, whether it's the laws, where you're born, your last name, whatever it is. You guys always found a way to make it possible. And I could just see it's your work ethic. It's how much research you do. You complement each other. And it's really dope to watch everything evolve. I can't wait to see you guys open the next shop and the next one. And
next time will be for the dispensary talk. We'll be out here talking about opening up our dispensary and all that. Definitely.
Opening up soon.
Yeah. No, we definitely appreciate all the comments and appreciate being on the show and you having us on here. It's been a great time.
And anyone who hasn't already checked out, they definitely need to get to the link in our bio on Instagram, so that they could go cop the flowers on my medicine collab between Stereotype and Garden State Hemp, because that new merch is dope. Just so everyone knows where to go get that. So
yeah, I'm gonna link that in the video. I'm gonna also do a quick. I'll pull it up real quick. I'll pull it up real quick on the video side of it. Hold on, let's pull that up. Here we go. Yeah, we were so I was so into the journey of everything.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute. If we gotta make sure we shout out the
The
collab,
merch, yeah.
merch is dope right now. So.
Yeah, the merch
more
is
to
on.
come. With more to come.
So let's pull that up real quick. Flowers on my medicine. Got the tees, the crew necks, the hoodies. Yeah, and you know, all my people on the east side, make sure to visit the shop. You know, meet my friends over here. They're doing amazing work in the community. Anyone out of town, make sure to check out their site and reach out to them. They're very hands-on and all about the community.
Yeah, we even have a little consultation tab on our website that they could click on. So if they want a consultation, no matter where they're from across the the US, you could jump on a call or jump on a consultation and help you kind of guide you through the journey of CBD and try to hand cater some products for them.
Yeah, and I learned so many gems. I'm definitely gonna be like Funk Flex and just drop bombs on them, and maybe cut up like a DJ mix of a lot of the gems you shared. Yeah, dudes, you know, keep up the amazing work, and you're always welcome back on the show.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Appreciate you having us on so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been a good time.
So, guys, once again, thank you for tuning in to the Type 88 show with Dave Noodles. We had Johnathan and Carl of Garden State Hemp with us today. As I said, make sure to check out them on the social medias and also their website, and visit the shop if you're in Jersey. And, you know, we've been dreaming for the evening, but it doesn't stop here. You know, make sure to take these lessons that these gentlemen shared with us today and apply them. They talked about, you know, really doing the research, you know, working together with others, you know, finding your strong point, and then finding other people that have maybe what you need and surrounding yourself with them. There were just so many gems that some that I needed to hear again, and a lot of stuff that I learned today. And you know, and as they said, you know, not everything is the fun stuff, but it's probably 90% not fun. But if you're willing to face those Goliaths, you could stand tall, you know, and you could really make it possible. And you know, these are two educated dudes in their industries. I'm sure you could reach out to them, and you know, make sure to check out the other episodes on the Type 88 show. We talk to people every week about their dreams, and make sure to check us out on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe so you can meet dreamers around the globe and take these lessons and apply them to your dreams. And don't stop dreaming.
Don't stop dreaming.
Ever.